Hello, welcome to Boardgames with Niramas Podcast in May. We're back in May. It's been a little while, but I'm here with Draco. Draco looks excited to get into another podcast. Now he's a quiet guy, as you know by now, so he's not going to really contribute that much, but he's supporting me from the sideline like he should. So in this episode here, we're going to start off with a bit of a news and updates. I'm going to talk about what's going on right now. And then I'm going to have a nice chat with my friend Gil Melo. And as I said earlier on when I started this podcast, like my ambition is to bring in gamers and designers and I don't know, store owners, publishers, anything, people in the board gaming hobby or industry. And I really wanted to get Gil in here. He played a lot of games. He has a lot of good analysis of games, and we have a good chat about his favorite games and what we think like games that we'll both like and so on. I hope you will enjoy it. It's gonna come here in a little while. But first off, let's talk a little bit about what's happening here over on the west side of Sweden. So I just got my first shot for my first vaccine shot, and I'm very happy. It's been really slow here. I have a lot of American friends and so on that already got both of their shots, a while ago, even if they're younger than me. And it seems like the whole EU and Sweden it's been going really slowly with the vaccinations, but right now it seems to be picking up in pace and so on. And because I am in some kind of double or triple risk group, basically, I got mine now, and it feels good. In 6 weeks, I will get my second one. So basically, in like 8 weeks or less than 8 weeks, actually, I will be, life will sort of, in some ways, go back to a little bit more normal. I will be able to, meet my family, meet friends, and so on. It's gonna be so good. I will be able to get back to some work as well. Yeah, it's just gonna be great. It's weird. It's been over a year now. I've been very isolated, and I think I handle it pretty good. Mainly, I think actually because of my interest in gaming and being able to game with people, old friends and meeting new friends online and so on. That has really helped out for my mental health. Even though this winter and the spring here, it's been really rough. It's starting to get to me a lot. But then again, springtime is good as well. I am taking my walks. Not really daily right now because the weather hasn't been that great here. It's been really cold and rainy and so on, even though it's been, we're in May. But hopefully it's gonna sort of get better soon. And I can take a walk even if it rains. It's just not as pleasant, basically. Back to gaming though. Speaking of gaming, I have recently here got a bunch of new games arrived at my house. Some of them, most of them are basically games that I'm going to film. So games from publishers and so on. A few games have been games that I sort of looked forward to or been excited about. I will talk a little bit more about those later on as well. Some of them are games that I really didn't expect to show up, really. So that's great as well. And some of these games also come from Game Maniacs. That's supporting the channel and my whole YouTubing and podcasting project. So I will be making some kind of some videos will be like solo playthroughs, some will be with Draco, and some will not be, maybe just like a overview or something like that. I will also, in this podcast episode today, actually, I will introduce something new here. So after my chat with Gil, I will go into a sort of review segment, so a new segment for the channel. I'm not going to do a Q&A this time. Haven't really gotten that many questions. So if you want to ask me questions and you want them to be in a future podcast, send me questions to bgwNiramas at gmail.com. And you can also find that address, of course, on my YouTube page or in the description for this podcast. So send me questions if you have any, and then I'll gather up a bunch of them, and then I'll do a Q&A segment, sort of, maybe like every other podcast or something. But today it's going to be reviewing. So I'm going to review a bunch of games later on here. And I like mixing up the podcast, having different segments and going with what feels interesting and things that could add to, again, the challenge for me. Like, I never done verbally, well, I done it in Swedish, to be honest, but I never done in English verbally reviewing games. except for also having video, obviously, which makes it so much easier because I can show you things and so on. So just talking about games and explaining how they works in just using my voice, that's going to be interesting here in a little while. So welcome to Gil. It's nice to have you here on the show. Maybe you want to start by just telling us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I'm Gil. Yes, now I'm a board gamer. I been on the board gaming hobby for quite a long time. I used to play board game when I was younger, but then it was in I think 2000. I was doing an exchange program, and I was living with some German guys, and they brought a bunch of games from Germany. And I think 2000 was the first time I played Settlers of Catan.
Oh yeah, you started
And
out there. Yeah.
yeah, we play. I think soon after that, I played Tax and Turns, and Carcassonne and things like that. I had previously. I used to play, the Risk and all those
Oh yeah,
normal
yeah.
normal games. And I think there's a game here in US that actually is from this area where I live. I live in Pennsylvania in US. I'm originally from Brazil, and I used to volunteer with an organization, and so that's how I moved to US. And
Okay. Yeah.
they have a game called Rook, and Rook is a tricking taking game. So it's kind of an early age of tricking taking game where you just play a card and you try to bid on how many hands can you do it. So that's, I think Rook is the one game, and that I start playing 96. It's kind of a that I played more often.
All
But
right.
then in
Yeah.
2000, yeah, in 2000 is when I start playing a little more. And then my wife and I went to Germany, and then went to board game store, came home with a bunch of board games, and yeah, and it's the rest is history. There was a downtime. I mean, it wasn't as I am right now. I think it's been about 10 years that I'm on the level that I'm like uncontrollable buying games and playing games.
Because I know that you have a lot of games, right?
I Well, depends. I have probably more than most, but not as much as many people that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to set up a cap on 500. I'm a little over that. So I sell a lot of games. I get rid of them. I have a pile of games where when friends come over, they're free. They can take home as long as if they don't play, they pass it on. So I have to culling a little bit my games, but not doing that very well.
So would you say, like, do you have a favorite type of games, like lightweight, midweight, heavyweight, or if you want to split it up into like more Euro and more thematic games?
Um, I mean, theme is very important for me, right? I don't think I have a specific style of game. I try not to play a lot of co-op games unless it's a co-op with hidden information.
Yeah. Huh.
I have a problem with a lot of games that have fully open information. They seem sometimes like, and I know I'm one of those people who felt as trying to overtaking the game, and that's a problem with co-op game. When you have hidden information that people can make their own decision, I think it's fine by me. But there's a lot of games where everything is open, but other than that, I have no problem. We run a podcast for many years, and because of the podcast, we start trying many different games. And I think opened a little bit my mind because I had to try to review games with a little more open mind, and I think that helped a lot too.
Yeah, because I know your favorite game is Gloomhaven, right?
No, but it's on the top. Yeah, it's on the
Okay. Yeah.
top 10. Yeah, my favorite game right now, it's a game that has no future, but there is future. A Clank Legacy.
Oh yeah.
I think it's my favorite game of all times that I've played, and I think part of it is because I played with my daughter and a couple close friends, and the whole experience was just one of the best thing that happened for me in all this years playing games. So I think right now it's right on my mind because I played it last year, so it's still on my top. So Clank, but that problem with games like Clank is that they fluctuate back and forth.
Yeah. I only
Eh,
play like four. I have with three friends. We started off like a year ago, sort of like more than a year ago, and when the pandemic hit, we stopped. But we played like four sessions of the Clank Legacy. It was so much fun, and I just can't wait to get back to when we can continue that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like the idea that there's always something happening.
yeah, there was a lot of things happening. I think because I guess you played Pandemic Legacy or some other Legacy game.
Yeah, I've played season one.
Yeah,
My wife didn't like as much, so we never played season two. It was fine. I liked it. I liked a lot, but it was just fine.
yeah. Because in that one, it feels more like there's a game you play and then something happens and it changes to the next game. But in Clank Legacy, I felt like stuff were happening like in the middle of the game. You're like, oh, now
Yeah.
this. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but stuff happened that you didn't see coming, and that is so exciting to me. Are you also in the situation where you're like, because I started going to do things that were not maybe the best for me to win, but I wanted to see what happens. Like you could go to some place and
Yeah, if I'm playing a legacy game or a game or some game that has, I don't know, even co-op games that we just talk about it. If I'm playing more than once, I need to try to adventure out. Try to see the possibilities. For me, is sometimes more fun than than the game itself.
yeah,
Try to yeah, and like you asked me like about my favorite games. Like I guess I like games where you can uh, screw up with other players.
yeah, yeah,
Like the jerk move kind of. I like take that games a lot.
yeah,
And sometimes I know, and maybe that's reflexive of people that I play with. Sometimes I will make things that I know I'm not gonna win doing that, but I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun because I know I'm taking off somebody who was playing. Now I only do that with people that I know that is fine with that thing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Have you played the Architects of the West Kingdom?
Oh yes, yeah, I love that game. I actually Shem Phillips is one of my favorite
Okay, yeah.
designers. Yeah.
Because I only played it once, but then I just ran around and just arrested everyone because I thought it was fun to put them in prison. I
Yeah.
didn't win, but I had fun.
Yeah, the arresting thing is funny. It's I've played several times, and there are games that just don't come to play, and this doesn't. Yeah, it's there's a little thing on that specific mechanic. It works, but doesn't work all the time. I think on that game, it's a great game. I don't think it's a best game, but I like Paladins. I think Paladins is a
Oh
better
yeah, I
game.
like Paladins more as well. Uh, like I think Paladins for me has a lot of these. Like it's kind of solitary in a way, but I like just sitting around doing stuff on my own board. And then once in a while we compete over something, like oh who grabs that first, who goes there first. But I like that it kind of reminds me of Orleans as well, which also has that nice like placement of workers or different kinds of workers on your board. I really like that.
Yeah, it's a little it's a little tougher game too. Yeah, it's not as easy as most of the other games he made. I know you play a lot of solo games. Like, do
Yeah,
you try to go sideways on your games? You try to like do different things every time, or you just go for
yeah.
winning every time?
No, I kind of like solo games where it's not just about beating your score. I like when there's an adventure going or like a story or something that I'm pursuing. So and I try and as you say, like I think one of the most fun things with board games is like trying to find new ways of doing things. Like Terraforming Mars, for example, which is one of my favorite games. I don't just want to play the same way. Like even if I win one week and next week I play, I don't want to do the same thing. I want to find another way to win. I want to find other strategies. And if I play with my friends, then I want to try to like I like tactical games. I think like when I have to
Okay.
adapt to what's happening. So I can have like a strategy, but then you might do something to me, and oh wow, now all of a sudden I have to react to that. I like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for me, it's tough because I'm the least smart person in my gaming group, so I have to adapt. Like, it's bad, but it's good at the same time because you kind of have to up your game, right? You need
Yeah.
like you're playing with people that can think 3, 4 movements ahead, and sometimes for me it's hard to get that far in a lot of games. So that has helped me to try to being better on playing games, but at the same time allows me. So I know allows me to have more fun and just try different things. Since many times
And
it's not I don't have a clear view of the end. Many games.
yeah.
There are games that I click right away for me, but there are games that I have to play several times before I know what to do.
And I mean, a lot of times when I mean, since we play werewolves together and so on, we're on Zoom and we have our cameras, and I've seen a lot of your cool. You're doing a lot of 3D printing, right? So I've seen cool stuff for
I do,
the games.
yeah. Yeah, I do mostly pieces for games. Like I try to I know miniatures shouldn't make you like or dislike a game,
Oh
but
yeah, I'm into
yeah,
that.
but I like to add. Printing little things. Nobody can see this, but I have like the Western legend. I printed little cows to be the
Oh
markers
yeah,
and stuff like that. So just little things. I think the whole pandemic thing, being home and not being able to play, the
yeah.
3D printing, it was an alternative way for me to keep involved myself with my games, rearranging them, moving shelves. I don't know. I was just finding projects that I could touch my games because I'm not as big of a solo game as you are. I don't think I like my own company. I don't know. It's just I have a rough time playing solo games. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get bored to
For
you
me,
know,
it's a very
playing.
like it goes up and down. Like like right now, I haven't played anything solo for a while, really, because like I need to. I like to dive into like Tainted Grail or Gloomhaven or something. I like to like dive into the campaign and just play. But then when I haven't played in a while, it's hard to get back. Like then
Mhm.
setting everything up, remembering the rules. You know, so
Yeah, I'm lucky because my 13-year-old is it's as smart as it comes.
yeah.
And so we play a lot of games together. My wife does play once in a while. My wife, she learned like 12 games and she said, that's it for me. I don't want to, let's always play those 12 games. And so we always, which is not bad. I understand because I probably have to reread most rules from my games every time. Like we're going to play, so we're gonna have our first game night tonight, and we're playing Lisboa, and
Oh,
I have to read the whole rules again because I could yeah I would not be able to teach that game by just remember
yeah, that's a
those
heavy
lines.
game, right? I haven't played it, but I would like to try it one. It looks interesting, but I'm also a little bit scared of the Vita Lacerda games because there's so much going on. So,
Yeah, I think the problem with Vitala Start is depend how good you are with reading rule books. Like I hate to read rule
yeah,
books, so I have to force myself. And so if you're like me, it's nice to have somebody who will teach you the game. Unfortunately, this time I'm the one teaching the game. But yeah, it's nice to have somebody who already played the game because most likely not gonna remember everything on the first time you play. Yeah, one of my like. So you were asking my favorite games, like All Mars, which is Vitala Starter game. That's
oh,
my number 3 best game of all time. So I complain about his game being heavy, but I love all his game at the same time. So it's yeah, I just think that the way he can make mechanics work together, it is so much stuff. It shouldn't work, and it does. So it's yeah.
so what have you been playing lately? Have you played anything new that
So
you can
yeah, I
recommend?
played Hallertau.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, a really good game. I think it's what the designer name just
Oh,
slipped
it's
my head.
Uwe Rosenberg.
Uwe Rosenberg. Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite games from him
Oh
because
yeah,
of the
okay,
simplicity of the game.
yeah.
I just think it's simple enough, but it's difficult enough. Like you know what I mean. There's a
The,
nice balance
Yeah,
there.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
thinking. I like that he's streamlined. Like you don't need to feed your people, but you sort of do because you need to like spend resources every round to.
Because the way the mechanic works, it's nice because you have to make sure that you're moving your warehouse, your stone, and you're going around, and you still have your sheep and your stuff. The typical stuff, but
Yeah.
the mechanics are a little different. I really like the way that he played that game. I think there's very little downtime too in that game, which was great for me. Um,
Have you played it on 3, 4 players or?
We played 4.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Haven't played. I only played once, so I need to play it again. It's just that it's normally I can't tell if I like a game on the first play, but that game I can tell that I'm going to enjoy play it
Yeah.
more and more. And it's funny because I didn't buy it, although I buy everything from him, but I didn't buy this time because it just I just thought, oh, another game with the same mechanic, and it's not. So now I regret. So yeah, but I have a couple friends that have it, so I'll be able to play. I also play Glass Road,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
really good game. It's an old game that's gonna have a reprint now.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I like the card mechanic in that one. Like the whole,
Hmm.
I'm guessing what you're choosing, and then I might, if I guess right, then I get an extra action basically. I think
Yeah,
that's
that is
cool.
very interesting. Yeah, I think that's my favorite part of the game. Trying to figure out what you're going to do. If you're a mason or if you're, you any different kinds of workers. Like
Yeah,
my mind now, but like then you play, I can follow. I have to try to get both of my actions or try to follow one of your action. I think it's good. I don't think is like I know the game. Like I was hunting for the game for a while and I didn't buy it because like people were asking $100 and some for the
oh
old
wow.
print,
Oh,
and I'm glad I never pulled the trigger on that because it's a really good game, but I don't think it's $100 game.
no, no, I didn't know that. I mean, a reprint is cool because I like the only thing with that game that I have a hard time with is like getting my mind around the whole thing with like if the wheel. So if I spend something, then the wheel turns, and then all of a sudden, like it's hard to get to
Yeah,
plan for me.
I haven't played analog. I played it on Tabletopia, and I keep forgetting to like as soon as you use a resource to spin the wheel.
Yeah,
So all yeah, and I keep forgetting that, and I keep getting yelled, "Oh, move your spin, spin your wheel, spin your wheel." Yeah, I appreciate Tabletopia, but there's some games that you need to see what other players are doing, and I
yeah,
have a hard time to doing that on electronic gaming.
yeah. I have a hard time with like Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator because it feels like I'm. It feels like a. I don't know. I like Board Game Arena because then it's automated. Like I can't do anything wrong. Like the game will keep track of everything for me. So have you played any Board Game Arena?
I have. It's been a while. Last year, on the beginning of the pandemic, I played a few games. I'm trying to remember. I think I played Maracaibo. It's been a while. It's been a
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
almost a year. So in the beginning, like I was excited, like and then I just dwindled down, and then we got into playing werewolves every night.
yeah.
Just took it over a little bit. Yeah.
I played Lost Ruins of Arnak on Board Game Arena, and I really like that game.
I've heard is really good. I played Dune Imperium, and I heard the mechanics are similar. But
Yeah,
my friend that has played both said that the Arnak's a little better because of the flow of the game's a little better.
okay. Yeah, I like the. It's interesting because the game has a lot of like thematic, like it's a Euro game, but with like some deck building and so on. But it has a lot of thematic connections. So like what you're doing in the game and the way the mechanics work, it makes sense. I like that when I play a Euro game and I can. It also helps, remembering rules and so on because it makes sense. Like, yeah, well, if you do this, then like one thing in that game is that you go in like deeper and deeper into the island or into whatever it is you're exploring. So every round you get less items available, but you get more artifacts available. So you're like finding stuff on the island basically. And I like when they do that things in games. There's a lot of, I think these days, a lot of good thematic Euros. Like it's like feels a lot like a mix. A lot of times, like Gloomhaven is that as well. Like this Euro mechanic, but this adventure and story, and I like when they mix those categories.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Gloomhaven. I think there is a reason. The problem with Gloomhaven is you need to have a group to play, right? Or you would
Yeah,
like to play on your own. It's fair. I was lucky that I had a few friends that we took a day of the week to play and keep going. And that we were talking about 3D. That's when I printed all the monsters,
yeah.
I print everything from Gloomhaven. We're still halfway into the campaign, uh, and we have so much fun. And I agree with you. It's just the right mechanic, we're doing the right thing. I'm surprising Gloomhaven is always on the top because I wonder if there's that many people that have group that can play that game together, or is a lot of influence.
Yeah.
I'm not beating the game. I think like it's my number 4 game of all times, right? So I think the game is amazing. I'm just so surprised that there's that many people
I,
playing
I
through the
wonder how
campaign.
many people in the world have completed the game.
I don't think it's a lot,
No, it
but
can't be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 99, right? 99 or 92 scenarios. Like
Yeah.
we've been playing for a year now, no, over a year now. Yeah, more than a year. This pandemic has been so long now, but yeah, and we're like just a little after halfway. And unless you play several scenarios every time you get together, that's
Yeah.
tough.
Have you played the Jaws of the Lion?
Yes, I'm playing that with my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she always wanted to play, and because we're group, we're like already full. So we play 4 scenarios so far. Yeah, and I think I like the progression that the Jaws of Lion.
Yeah, it's very good in the
Uh,
beginning, like a tutorial in the beginning, like yeah,
yes, you're right. It's almost like a tutorial for Gloomhaven. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's. I think the progression in maybe for people like her that don't play game every week. You know, she plays maybe once or twice a month only, which probably more than most people, but still, it's a nice gradual. And I think that it's good to introduce people for that style of game too. I
and
don't know if it would work for every game, but it does work for that game.
yeah, I think I heard about other games like are also like starting to do that, or like designers talking about like they want to do that in their games, like having their tutorials. It's almost like when you play some computer games, right, where you can play a tutorial and learn the game, and then you
Yeah.
start playing the actual game, sort of.
The only problem with that kind of thing is the cost, right? How many people can afford that or is willing to take that step?
Yeah,
Now, if you have a game, your Jaw is a Lion is a tutorial, but it's important for people to understand it's a full game, right? It's a full-fledged game. It's
yeah,
not just like a little try me to see if you like game. And I think that's cool about it. But I could see like some games from the Mind Clash. Their games are so complex.
yeah,
I can see like a Tricarion or maybe Anachrony have walk me through version.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
and maybe those games like on Kickstarter. That's something that Kickstarter could offer. Like, oh, here's a couple scenarios that will introduce each mechanic. Because yeah, like Tricarion with the new expansions and everything. I think we played last year. It took me literally an hour to teach the game
yeah.
just before starting playing. So
Yeah, I mean it's like an acronym now with the huge box and like all the
yeah,
expansions. It's scary for me even to get into like for solo playing because it's gonna take a while before I even get started right. Like,
the setup alone is crazy, right?
yeah. So I mean it's fun to have you on the podcast, and I do know that I don't think I've seen anything, but I do know that you made some content yourself, right? Back in the days, at least.
Yeah, I moved and stuff. So I used to do board game breakfast for Dice Tower.
Yeah.
I did crowd surfing for Dice Tower as well. And then we had a Twitch channel called Gig Spiel, and we had a podcast, and then we have a YouTube channel. Um, so yeah, so I did content for 2 years,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and then I changed position on my jobs, and I decided to take a couple of months off, and the couple of months became
Yeah. Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
2 year now. So I'm actually finishing my little room. I'm gonna have a studio, so my plans is to slowly start making videos again. Probably the first thing I'm gonna do is for board game breakfast at
Yeah. That's
Dice
cool.
Tower
Yeah.
again, and then yeah, podcast. I don't know. There's a lot of content out there,
Yeah.
and I can't figure out. I like this that you're doing here. It's something different that normally people just talk about games and reviews and stuff, which is fine too. I just don't know yet what could I add to the podcast world, and then maybe it's late to the game. I think when we started, if we had continuous right
Oh yeah.
now,
Yeah.
I think would be different. Like we would have built up that thing. But right now, like there's so many solid, Secret Cabal, dice and taking dice, rolling dice and taking names, and blue peg, pink peg. There's a lot of good content out there.
Yeah.
So I think the future is either do some different on YouTube or find Twitch. I think the Twitch channel is a good vehicle to interact live with people.
Yeah, I really like the idea. Like, I have a Twitch channel, but I don't really use it, to be honest. But like, because I like the idea of Twitch to have the like streaming and have the direct contact with the viewers and all that. But it's such a it's such a complex platform in a way because you can modify like your page in like 1,000 different ways and have like these like robots and add-ons and all that stuff.
Yeah, you have to have a like what we did a lot of Kickstarter. So we would have the designer playing the game with us. That's
Okay.
how we did. And I remember like I played Escape Plan with Vital Lacerda, and I like to tell people I beat Vital Lacerda on his own game.
That's great.
Now that's sad. He was being interviewed, right? He was while playing the game answering questions.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not fair. But I'm gonna take the credit anyway.
You should.
So that kind of thing we did. So that's what I'm saying. There's so many people creating content right now that it's harder to figure out what could I bring to the table that is different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about that myself. I've been doing this for a few years now, but like once in a while, I'm thinking like, how can I renew what I'm doing, and like find new things to do so that keep it fresh. It's easy to just get stuck in the same, like doing the same thing over and over that you're used to.
Yeah, but you have like you live in a different country. You have a niche on your country as well.
Yeah.
It's just that here in US, everything is done in such a large scale that's so hard to follow. I don't think there's a lot of people that play solo like you did, and there's not as many. I think there's an increasing of more people playing solo during this pandemic. But it's
naturally.
something.
I mean, if you can't play with your game group, and
yeah.
I mean, I used to have friends coming over as well, and we did some videos together. But I mean, now it's just solo basically. I mean, I simulate. I play with Draco, so now I simulate 2-player. But
did you and Draco play anything good recently?
No, not really. I mean, I have a lot of games like in a pile basically that I should play or like I want to play and I want to film and so on. But I've been kind of low energy lately, and now spring is coming here in Sweden. It's kind of rough during the winter here. It's hard to find energy when you can't go outside and it's dark all the time. So.
I thought it was winter 8 months out of the year in Sweden.
Well, almost, yeah. I mean, now it's like today it's been sunny weather and so on, but it's like from now basically maybe to September it's okay, and then it's I mean, how's the you have snow as well, right? In your part.
We do, yeah. We did have a little more snow this year than other years. But winters haven't been harsh here in Pennsylvania. We've been spoiled the last 5 years. Here's weird, like either you have very little or it's just dumps everything on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last 5 years was pretty mild. This was the first year we had like a really harsh winter with a lot of snow, which is fine. I mean, my driveway is not that long, so.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Gil, for coming on and
no
just
problem.
having a chat. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while. Like, we play Werewolf together, and we like to talk about games, and at some point we could play something together as well. We could do something online, or I mean, you already been in a bunch of my videos, right, from the Werewolf. So
yes, that's true. Yeah, I it's funny because if you had asked me before, like last year or the year before last year, I would tell you that I hate games like Werewolf. I'm not a. I don't dislike social deduction game. I do like them. I just never enjoy Werewolf as much. Yeah, just all of a sudden start playing and I just love it. And I think for me, Werewolf was a game that is ideal for platforms like Zoom, right? Because I think it actually works better on Zoom than works on live, and I think that's why I like it. I think I'm probably not gonna play much live with people. I don't like the whole move your hands, tuck in your elbow kind of thing. I think
agree,
Zoom stops all that.
You can send the private messages. Everything can be done very smoothly. I mean, especially because I used to say that I didn't like games where were player elimination, right? But when I can turn off my camera and I can watch the other ones, I can do some other stuff on the side. Then it's fun. If you're sitting in a room and you're like, oh well, you're out. Like, oh, now we have to wait an hour. That's no fun. So,
well, if somebody watching one of your games, like we're not playing the vanilla werewolves anymore. There's been so many interaction between Guamu Wolf and all the Yeah, people got creative.
Yeah.
There's you and a couple other people that really kept that going. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It keeps it fresh. Like, and these days the different moderators have their own style also, like the carnival that Adam has, and it's cool with the whole different styles. And I think there's like always ways to like expand, like find new ways to do things, and it keeps it interesting. So,
Oh,
well,
I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for hosting all the games.
yeah, yeah. I mean, hopefully we can get together in some kind of board game play in the future.
Almost definitely. Yeah.
At some point when this pandemic is over, I do want to visit US, Gen Con or any of
Oh
those.
yeah. There's space on my house. I know Origins, which is
Oh yeah.
and both Origins and Gen Con, I think is going to happen. I was actually looking for a hotel. I'm not sure yet if I'm going or if my wife will let me go because this whole pandemic. But
Yeah.
hopefully, things will be better by October. And I'm really was hoping to be able to go to Origins, which is one of my favorite. And PAX Unplug is just 45 minutes from
Oh,
my
cool.
house. So
Yeah.
anytime you come down, you have a place to stay.
Thank you so much, Gil. And
No problem. Thank you.
thank you for listening. And now let's head over to the next segment of the show. All right. So yeah, that was a nice chat I had there with Gil. I hope you enjoyed listening in on our thoughts and just basically a chat, just a relaxed chat, which is how I like to do it. No matter what my guest is, I'm having one guest each episode, even if it's like a famous designer or one of my gaming friends. Like in this case, I like just having a relaxed chat and just not too much of an interview or like a scripted thing. I like the relaxed model of it. So let's go into some reviewing. So I'm gonna do 5 games today. So I'm gonna talk about 5 games and go through them one by one here and tell you what I think about them. It's games that I played recently. And the first one here is Praga Caput Regni. So Praga Caput Regni is a game from Delicious Games and designer Vladimir Suchi. And for me, at least, he's most famous for the Underwater Cities, which I think such a good game. Really like Underwater Cities. So I had high hopes for that. Praga Caput Regni was their big release from 2020. Came out at Essen Spiel Digital, and I got my copy, I don't know, a while ago, and I played it with Draco. It's a Euro game where there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving parts. You're basically building up the city of Praga, or it's kind of a medieval style. I think it takes place in the medieval times. It's these like building buildings. You can upgrade your actions, and then the main part of the game is an action selection where there's a wheel that you actually spin, which I always like that kind of stuff in games when you physically can move some components of the game, and like I think that's pretty cool. And then you even have like some 3D pieces in cardboard, so you build up a little bridge, and I think it's called the Charles Bridge. It's very famous in Prague. And you also have like a 3D little, I don't know what, like a little castle or like steps basically that you can climb with a token to get more points and so on, and benefits as you play the game. And in the game you have a board of actions. So there's 6 actions in the game, and you take a tile from this wheel, and then you use one of the two. There's 2 different actions. You use one of those actions, and you have your like little board on your own with 6 actions on it. And if like depending on if you have upgraded those actions, the actions will become better and better as you go. So I felt like this is a game that I need to play a bunch more before I can actually do a proper review. Because it's one of these like not heavy, but on the heavier side of Euro games, I would say. So it's hard to like, I don't know what strat, like how important is it to upgrade one of my actions early, and should I really invest in one of the areas I can go into instead of the other ones? I don't know, to be honest. It has a weight of 3.67 on BGG, and I think that it felt a bit heavy to get into. I think it's one of those games where you play it a bunch because you will get better at it, because all the information is really like open. Everything's out there on the table. So you can, well, you have like a little bit of a random element in the case that the buildings will come up, will be drawn from a stack, and the upgrade tiles, so that, when they come out could be different. But for me, it's not really my type of game, I would say, these days, because I don't really play unless I really, really get stuck in a game. I don't play a game like 10 times in a short amount of time. And I think you need to do that with this one to really get into the best ways to play it and like try different strategies. And I'm not that big of a fan of games that have all this like open information, and then it's like you can basically sit there and look at it and make like a perfect strategy. I'm more and more getting into these like liking tactical games. Well, I guess you know everything from Keyforge, Terraforming Mars, for that matter. There's a bunch of games that are more tactical. Things happen. There's randomness. You draw cards random, or you roll a die. Things happen randomly, and then you have to adapt to that as you go. I feel like in this Praga Caput Regni game is more of a strategy game where you make your strategy from the start. There's a little bit of randomness. There's a little bit of interaction depending on what your opponents do. They might take a spot, like build a building on a spot that you wanted to build in. But overall, I think you're pretty much safe to do whatever you want. Now, I haven't played it with 3 or 4, obviously, and I think that it would be more interesting in a way with 3 or 4 players, because this like resource wheel, or not resource, like action wheel, where you take the action token from. Or in a 2-player game, I just felt like, well, I'll take one of the first ones, and then the wheel rotates, and the tile that I took will be placed at the back of the wheel. And then, Draco took the other one. Because if you don't take one of the first ones, then as the wheel rotates, that one will be in a new area where your opponent will get points when they take them. So you don't want that to happen. I don't know. Maybe, I think it's a cool idea. But again, I think it might be more suited for a higher player count. I will say I like the components though, and I thought it was really cool with this wheel as well, because in the wheel there's a little spot for a wooden cube, and as you rotate the wheel after a full lap, the cube will fall down a little hole, and that indicates that you've done a full lap, and then you do like 3, I think it is, before the game's end. And that was just a cool little thing they did there with the components. I like when they do innovative stuff with cardboard and whatever. Like, there's so much you can do that actually adds to the feeling of the game, and keeping track of things in the game. Next up here is Nemesis. Nemesis is well, how should I explain this? It's basically Alien, or Aliens, the board game. This is from Awaken Realms. I think this was one of their first. This is from 2018. I think it was one of their first really huge Kickstarters that they did. It has cool miniatures. It's a cooperative or semi-cooperative. You can play it in different ways, or solo game, where you're on a ship. Basically, you're waking up out of hypersleep, and then you need to make sure that the ship is going to Earth, if that's what you want, or then you need the engines to work, or you can try to abandon the ship by one of these escape pods. But you also have some thing you need to do before that. You might need to find like an alien egg and analyze it before you leave. Really cool game. This one I really enjoyed, and I felt a little bit like the mechanics of the game are very much like action point allowance. So you have a few action points basically you can do each turn, or basically on your turn, but then at some point you will need to pass, because playing actions like moving around or doing actions that costs you cards. You have cards in your hand, you have a little deck basically, and then you need to spend the cards to do the actions, but then you might want to spend the cards to do the effect of the cards as well at some point. So there's like it's always like, oh, do I want to keep this card because I might need to repair something later on, but then I need to spend a card to move. And as you move around the ship, you will make noise, and the noise will attract the aliens, and they will show up if you make too much noise. And that was a really cool, exciting part of the game. And I must say, I mean, this is like really totally opposite of the one I talked earlier about with the Praga. That's really like sort of dry, Euro. In this one, it has the same weight, basically 3.35, but instead it's more of a thematic cooperative game. And I will say, I will never play this game as a semi co-op. You could have it so you have like secret missions, so one of the players might be a trader. I don't mind social deduction in that sense, like trader games, if it's shorter, smaller games, like, Werewolf or whatever. Not that short, but you know what I mean. In this one though, or like it's the same like Mansions of Madness. In Mansions of Madness second edition, I even pulled out those cards that make it so that you sit there for 3 hours, you work together, you're trying to solve it, you're trying to reach the goal. And then, whoa, all of a sudden, because I went insane in that game, I turned into a trader. I don't like that. In Nemesis, I guess you would know from the start that you're a trader. But yeah, I still don't like that in this kind of game. I like that we work together. And the optimization, like, always like, okay, so I could go into this room. That would be good because I need to go there to do something, or I need to, like, trying to pick up an item. But that will make noise, and the noise might attract aliens. Am I ready to fight an alien? And I think the coolest thing about this game, actually, from a mechanical perspective, is how you fight the aliens. So you're rolling a die and you're trying to get hits, nothing new there, but the health of the aliens are not preset. It's not like a medium-sized alien shows up and you know it has 10 health. Instead, you fight it, you do damage to it, and then you draw a card to see what happens, and then on that card you will have a number, and that number is how much health it has. So if you already did enough damage, it will die. It could also be that it escapes and goes like into the ventilation system or something, and it will heal up and then show up later. Really cool system. It's really, I don't think I've seen that in any other game. And it fits the theme so well. Like, I mean, you're walking around, you're basically scared, right? Like in the Aliens movies, these nasty creatures are crawling around you, and you don't know how strong they are. Like, you shoot at them and hopefully they die. Maybe they don't. Maybe they run away and it's so cool. Really, really cool game. I'm so impressed by Nemesis. I know there's a bunch of like add-ons for this. If you have a Kickstarter, I only have the retail edition. And also there's expansion. I think it's called Lockdown. There's a lot of stuff for this game that I don't have. Or haven't played, but I think I will. This will be a game that I will be keeping in my collection to play with my friends when we can do that. Hopefully this summer, and I think we're gonna have a good time because I like these kind of cooperative games where you're, making a plan together, but then there's a lot of random events and randomness happening, so you can't really be sure if it's gonna work or not, which I do like because it also brings in the theme of this. You can't plan for how to solve this. Like, you're walking around the ship, you don't know. That's also cool, actually. The tiles are like flipped face down and randomized at the beginning because you came out of hypersleep. So you don't remember exactly where all the rooms are. It all makes sense. It all makes thematic sense, and it really runs smooth and nice. And I really enjoy Nemesis. Next up, we have the newest game that I will talk about today, which is Red Rising from Stonemaier Games. Red Rising is the sort of latest here. It's latest release from Stonemaier Games. Jamie Stegmaier is the designer together with Alexander Smith. And from, reading the rulebook, and also, if you listen to the last episode of the podcast, I did talk to Jamie. There we had a chat and we talked about Red Rising and how he wanted to make this game for a long while. He really likes the Red Rising universe and from the books and everything. And I haven't read the books. I think I will at some point. I use mostly a audiobook service and listen to books while I'm walking and so on. And they have them only in English. I don't mind reading English. And I don't mind watching movies or TV where they speak English, obviously. And I don't mind speaking English or whatever. But I have something. It's a bit hard for me to listen to an audiobook in English. I prefer to do it in Swedish if the translation is good and everything like that. Because I think it's easier for me to disconnect and start thinking about something else and feel like I'm not really following along with the story. So I might get into the Red Rising books. I hope so at some point. But anyway, the game is a card game with some interesting twists. Basically, you start off with a hand of 5 cards. On your turn, you play a card to one of 4 stacks of cards, or like rows of cards, and then whatever the card, if the card has a deploy ability, then you do that deploy ability, and then you pick up a card from another, like one of the 3 rows that you didn't place in. It's actually like locations, I think it's called. And then you will get a benefit depending on which place you're pulling the new card from. So then you will have 5 cards again in hand. But then there's ways to get more cards. There's ways to get less cards. There's a little bit of take that. You can steal stuff from your opponents. But I played it solo and I played it with Draco so far. I really look forward to playing this with all 4 players, with my friends. It's going to be interesting to see how it changes up. I felt a little bit on 2 players that the card rotation wasn't that great. Like it felt like we were using the same cards over and over in some way. You can pull cards like face down from the deck as well, but I don't know. I wasn't disappointed, but at the same time I wasn't as excited as I thought I would be so far. I think the solo is okay, but I think this game is better with more players. I expect it to be, and I look forward to playing it with more players. So take it for what it is. It's mainly a first impression here, more than a review in a sense. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. It's really nice. It's the collector's edition that I have. It's really nice components, like metal cubes, which is awesome, like metal tokens, everything, really cool. And the cards are like foiled with the gold cards, so they're like shining a little bit. Really nice stuff. Really like the feel of the game, I would say. But I think it's one of those games again that I need to play it a lot before I really get into it, because I don't know if all the cards are unique, but there's a lot of cards. There's like, I don't know, 150 cards, something like that. And they all have like different effects on the deployability. And then the other big thing with the game is that when the game ends, which is not a preset amount of rounds, it's instead when people reach a certain goal, they do certain things in the game that will trigger the game end. And at that point, the cards that you have in your hand are also how you score the main part of your points. So every card has like not every, most of the cards have a end game scoring effect. So like they all have like a base value, but then they also have, so like if you have one of the blue cards, it might say that, well, you will get 26 points if you also have a green card in your hand at the end of the game. So you want to make sure that happens. But then that green card might say that, oh, well, this card will score so and so many points, but it doesn't have, like if you have any gray cards in your hand. So then you got to make sure you don't have the gray cards. And this optimization of the points there is very interesting, but it's also something I think it's going to be more enjoyable the more you play it, because it's like Keyforge almost or something like that, because I need to get into it. I really need to play it a bunch so that I don't need to sit around just reading the text like, oh wait, how does this card work again? It's going to be nice when I get into it and start recognizing cards, start getting into the flow of the game. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. And there's the videos coming of this. I made both a video with Draco and a solo playthrough. So there's 2 videos coming very soon here on the channel where you can see us play it as well. So it's easier to get a grip of it that way. But I wanted to mention here as a first impressions review or whatever, because Red Rising is a cool game, and I think I would recommend people to try this and see how they feel. I don't think it's for everyone, but most games aren't. But yeah, I think I will enjoy this more and more as I go. And then let's head over to a game that I played a lot lately on Board Game Arena. I have the actual physical game as well. It's Lost Ruins of Arnak. So, well, first of all, it's from Czech Games Edition. Came out last year, was their big release for SSBL Digital. And in this game, you have it's like a mix. I would say it's a mix of a few things that I do enjoy, like worker placement. You have 2 workers, the whole game, so you don't get more workers, but you place them out, do actions on places, and you can also explore with them, which means you place them on a spot that hasn't been revealed yet, which means you just pull out a random tile, and that's the new worker placement spot. And then the next round, you can go there again, or one of your opponents can go to that spot because you have revealed it or explored it. And you get a bunch of benefits from doing that as well. So that's one part of the game. And that's sort of in some ways, it's very nice how they integrate everything. So it's an important part of the game, but it's not the main part of the game, because then you also have a deck building part where you're building a deck and you have a hand of cards and you're playing those cards to get effects. Some of them are free actions just to get resources and so on. And some of them are like spend what you do on your turn to get, well, resources or effects or doing more things, because you also have a research track, and in the research track you're trying to get research, and as you go, every step you go costs you different resources. You're trying to be first because you will get some bonuses for instead of your opponents, and you also get a bunch of points from the research track. I think that one is really important. You need to invest in that. But then there's the balance, like how many cards do you want to buy? How big should your deck be? The game is fairly quick. It's just like 5 rounds. And there's also interesting part in this game where there's both the cards, like the item cards as they're called, that you have in your hand and you play out for their effect, and so on. The cards are also multi-use. So every card also has like a travel symbol. So when you go explore, when you do the worker placement, you also need to spend a card and you need to have the right symbol. But if you do that, then you don't get the effect of the card, which is classic, pick between how do you want to use this card, what is most important right now. And then there's another type of cards that are called artifacts, and these cards, like as the game, every round you start the game with just 1 artifact on the market, but like 4 items or 5 maybe, I'm confused now. But then every round there's like a little staff moving, and then you will get more artifacts but less items. And this is really cool thematically, because you're exploring this continent or this island, right? As the game goes along, you're moving further into the continent, so it's harder to get hold of items, from your ship or whatever you came with. But you will also instead find more artifacts. The cool thing with the artifacts is they also, when you buy them, they also go into your deck, and then you can use them later on. But when you buy them, you also get the effect of them right away. And that's really fulfilling for me, really satisfying, how I can plan things out and then buy one of those, get the effect right away, and that gives me some resources that I need to do another action, so I could sort of prolong my turn and do more turns until I have to pass for the round. A lot of interesting, good stuff in Lost Ruins of Arnak, and I have the physical game. Haven't played it yet. I am going to play it solo. They're going to release a solo campaign that I look forward to. That's going to be very interesting. And I also look forward to playing it solo, because I only been playing it on Boardgame Arena so far, and that's against human opponents. And the components are really nice. Really, the cards look great. The artwork is great. Really nice research. These little diamonds, basically, are plastic and so on. Really, really good game. It's one of my absolute favorites right now, and I think I might do like I'm considering doing at the end of the year. I think I'm considering starting to do like a top 10 video of games that were released the previous year, because I always have this, like I'm gonna do one for 2021 as well, like I usually do. But in that one, I always have this issue of like, well, it's December. I'm sitting there just before Christmas making my top 10 games of the year list, and I haven't played that many games, like because basically a lot of the games come out late in the year, and so I don't have time and to catch up. So I might do a top 10, like a revised top 10 list for 2020. I already did a top 10 for 2020 that you can go check out the video, obviously, but I'm going to do a revised one, and I really think Lost Ruins of Arnak will be on that, because I'm so impressed by it. Such a good game. So I can recommend it, and I can recommend you try it out on Boardgame Arena if you want to try it out before you buy the actual game and so on. Alright, so final game of today's podcast that I will be talking about here, giving you an impression of, is Beyond the Sun. Beyond the Sun is a game, again, that I played on Boardgame Arena. It's from Rio Grande Games, designed by Dennis K. Chan. And this is a sort of, it's an interesting game, because it's basically, a lot of Euro games, I would say, are an Excel file that you are moving things around from one place to another, and that leads to a result, which leads to victory points that makes you win. And that sounds really boring, but then you put a theme on that, and you have interesting mechanics, and then all of a sudden you have an interesting game. But in Beyond the Sun, it's almost like you can see the Excel file in the background, because it's so mechanical in the way you play it. It's basically abstract. I mean, there's like this space theme, and yeah, it could have been something else, I guess. I don't know. It's a tech tree game, which is something I really like. I always like tech trees all the way back from when I leveled up my characters in Diablo or whatever. There's like I get to I need, or like, civilization games, like, okay, so to research level 2 whatever, then I need to have the first 2 prerequisites level 1. And in this game, also in Beyond the Sun, it's really cool how they are thematically connected. So it's not random, but if I invest for, when the game starts, you see all the level 1 technologies, so you know what they are, and they're always the same, but they can be in different spots. And I invest in one of them. I know it's the military focused technology, because then you use military to actually fly sort of ships around as well and fight for control. It's like an area control part of the game as well, on different planets, and then colonize them in order to get benefits. But anyway, back to the tech tree. So in the tech tree, so I know when I invest in the level 1 that, okay, this is the military focused one, which means when I then research level 2, that is the follow up from that, I will draw a until I get a red card, basically, which is military. So I know that I will be better at military. And the military actions are mainly focused on creating more fighter ships, and then flying around with your fighter ships and taking control of different planets. And all of this is done in a very cool way as well, because all the resources that you have in the game are dice, but you don't never roll the dice really. Well, there's a few occasions, but mostly you don't roll the dice. Instead, you just flip them over to indicate if it's like a population you have, or if it's a spaceship, or if it's an ore that you need to build things with. And on your player board, you also have like a supply of these. Well, I think they're called supply, and then that can transform into ore or population or ships. And in order to unlock these and get them into play, you need to sort of upgrade. You need to basically build cities or like farms to get more food, or you need to build like factories to create more ore. And then at the end of each of your turns, you will produce, and then you will choose if you're producing population or ore, or if you want to do a trade action, which you can switch things back and forth. But in order, so if I have sort of built enough farms to unlock 2 active rows of dice, then when I do a population production action at the end of my turn, I will get 2 population instead of 1. And the same goes for the ore. So there's a lot of planning going into this. It's not that heavy. It's a weight of 3 on BGG, but there's a lot of planning and a lot of interesting decisions. There's also a bunch of randomness in the way that when you discover a new, or like research a new technology, then you get like a little event card happening that benefits you. So if you're the first to do it, then you get some benefit. But then the other players can also research that technology as well. And there's also like goals every time you play. So there's random goal cards out there that you can see. So in some games, it might be more important to invest in like military. In some games, it's more important to be quick on the research. And you can get to level 4 technologies, which are really strong, obviously. But at the start of the game, you can't even research there. You have to like research, you have the level 1s, then you have to research level 2 and then level 3. And somewhere along that way, you need to find a way to research level 4 as well, to unlock that. And then whoever does that first will like score an achievement, basically, and that achievement will give you points as well. Really nice game. I really like Beyond the Sun. This is also, one of my sort of new discovered basically favorites from 2020. I look forward to playing this with my friends as well. It's such a cool game, and I really like how it's like a tech tree, it's like an Excel file, and they put on a theme, and I don't really mind. Like a lot of times I want thematic games. I want the actual games to feel thematic. And I mean, there's some theme in the sense that what you're doing makes sense from a space exploration research perspective. But I don't really mind that there's not that much theme, because what I'm doing in the game is so much fun, and I really enjoy how my mind works when I play this game. I think weight 3 and like a little bit of a thematic Euro, like slap on a theme or whatever. But this one and Lost Ruins of Arnak are similar in that sense, that they are perfect for me. They're like perfect in my type of game. What I prefer in games. So yeah, really enjoy Beyond the Sun. Again, can recommend you to try it out on Board Game Arena if you're curious. It's free to play. So yeah, really enjoy those games more or less. Some of them I will, as I said, I need to play more before I can really give some kind of final review or whatever. All right. Hope you enjoyed this segment. This is new for me, trying this out to just, vocally review or give first impressions of games. I used to do my first impressions vlog basically every month, but since, now I'm thinking that the podcast will sort of take over that part, because I felt like there were a lot of work, a lot of hours to put down into those videos, because I put like rolling video in the background of the game I was talking about, and then myself and the green screen and everything. It was a lot of work with those videos, and I think, basically I can do the same thing or give you most of the same content just by talking about them. Of course, you don't see the videos, but you can always go, check out if I talk about the game that you find interesting. If you can go check it out as well on the channel. And I should say, speaking of that, I should say that Praga Caput Regni I haven't filmed. It was really hard to film because it was so huge, and how the game worked, it was really tricky for me. Red Rising is coming very soon, and Lost Ruins of Arnak, you can go check that out. I played that together with my friends Martin and Eric, so there is a video of Lost Ruins of Arnak on my YouTube channel that you can check out. Beyond the Sun is coming as well. I will make a video of that. And Nemesis, I haven't made a video of, but that's coming as well. I'm going to do a solo playthrough. But until then, I also I'm in a video together with Helle from Game for Life BG. So you can find it that way as well. And I will link to everything like this in the description, so you can find out when you can watch when me and Helle played it together. And she had it on the table and had camera and everything set up. So it was a physical play, but she's in Denmark and we did it on through the internet, which is one of my new. I really like that you can do it that way. I think it's really cool. All right, so with that, me and Draco, we're gonna sign off for today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Again, if you have any feedback or questions or requests or whatever, just contact us. You can find all the contact info, of course, in the description for the podcast episode. And also let us know, how are you listening to the podcast? Are you using like Spotify or iTunes, or are you just watching the YouTube? I post the podcast on YouTube as well, so it's interesting for me to hear how you guys and girls consume the podcast. Do you say that in English? I think so. Consume content. Yeah. All right. I'm signing off. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great evening or morning or whatever you're listening. Take care. Bye bye.